Because we're not into it for self, we did not push or try to encourage the governor to go to June. I met with the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, and after having his assurances that I could form Orett, because as a lawyer I know there is the executive, it's the judiciary, and it's the legislative. We cannot operate without each other, but yet we cannot cross those borders. For this particular instance, we didn't have an issue with the judiciary. It involved the executive and the legislative. I had the assurance that we could go on as a cabinet because when they departed, either through not counting correctly or whatever other reason, I was left with 5. If I were left with 4, it would be a different story because I'd have to go, and I'm going to get poetic now, to the Honourable Speaker's door to get 4 more. And it would not be the same considerations as I had now. I was left with 5. I understood the environment, the temperament that's in here, that we're about to embark on election season. I wanted to give everybody an equal opportunity, but the first patient, the first client is the Cayman Islands generally, not individually. And so we wanted to ensure, as was, I spoke with Chief Officer West, and there would be over 2,000 persons that would be disenfranchised to vote if we had went sooner. Besides, we're going to be in Christmas shortly. And I know, and you know, you've been around election. There's enough electioneering that go on. Can you imagine the chaos that would have gone on if we were in the heat of election when one of the most sacred religious days on our calendar? And so as I spoke with West, and West consulted with Governor and the AG, we decided what we believe is the most fairest, and that was confirmed when I spoke to the Leader of the Opposition, that the 30th would be the most fairest. And if I could just go back as I conclude with the snap. When you snap, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. When you calculate, when you inform yourself that your decision is made on imperial evidence, you know what the outcome is going to be. And so for me, it's very vivid. My mango trees and pear trees in particular that took the whooping from the hurricane that snapped is all jagged, some is twisted, some is torn. They may or may not come back. And I still have to go and get the chainsaw and make sure that they're cut correctly, because insects will come in, water will come in, and you may end up with the whole tree dying. I could not risk with the Cayman Islands dying.
Yeah, and snap elections are usually done to gain a political advantage. And basically what we're hearing out there is that no particular group at this point in time or party is ready, for elections so early, as well. Governor, if I may, some persons, whether politically informed or otherwise, have expressed fear that the Cayman Islands may come under administration because of these changes. Our Constitution certainly makes provisions for what has occurred here. When we look at other jurisdictions, we see issues with them, some that have had commissions of inquiries that have been conducted, recommendations that have been made, and they have to fulfill those requirements. And they're certainly much closer to coming under administration than the Cayman Islands. So I think we can assure the public that, but I would like to hear from you on that. And with the upcoming Joint Ministerial Council meeting, how important that would have been. Because one of the things also is that had we had, say, snap elections, or there's that possibility that on a ministerial level we may not have been represented at the Joint Ministerial Council. And I believe the only other time that we weren't represented was after Hurricane Ivan, and that was quite obvious. So could you speak to those, please?
Yeah, so first thing to say is, yes, I think at the moment there's absolutely no chance of any kind of, coming under some administration arrangement from the UK. My approach has always been that, we follow the Constitution, we follow the rule of law. I was very keen to look after the resignations last week at, question is, do we have a government that can continue? as Premier says, what does it have the support of, enough members in the legislature, for example? So can democracy continue? And, provided that is the case, then there is absolutely no question of, me intervening in any other sort of a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's very good and very important that we can have a Cayman delegation going to the joint ministerial council. This is the event that's held every year with all of the overseas territories. It will be the first one for our new ministers in the UK after the British election in the summer. So we'll, Honourable Premier has already spoken to Foreign Secretary David Lammy. I hope he will be there. Maybe the Prime Minister and the Minister for the Overseas Territories, who's called Stephen Doughty, will be the main minister who's leading it. The UK is looking at having a proactive future relationship with the territories. That may mean some opportunities to renegotiate various bits and pieces. So I think it's incredibly important that Premier is there with the Cayman delegation to hear what ministers have got to say and to be able to have a really open and honest discussion about all of that. So it's a particularly important JMC in 2 weeks' time.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about Remembrance Day coming up as well?
Yeah, I'm sorry not to be here is the first thing to say. I am leaving, oh goodness, it's tonight. I'm on a flight tonight to go back to the UK because I'm planning to be there with Honourable Premier for the JMC, and I thought I would take the opportunity to have a few days with the rest of my family over there. So as everything is in a very good state here, I'm going to be getting on the plane tonight. I will try, and it'll be always interesting to see how Remembrance Day is, obviously it's a very important moment in the UK as well. I'm very aware of the veterans who've given their lives, their service to this country. I was hoping to see some representatives of the veterans this week, but the storm rather put paid to that. So when I'm back, I would certainly hope to have a few of them round to the Government House. Because one of the most moving things is always being able to talk to our veterans and just to hear their stories and to understand what they've gone through so that we don't forget. We often say around Remembrance Day, lest we forget. Well, let's make sure we absolutely don't forget. And I think as the world continues to look like quite a dangerous and insecure place in many parts of it, we need to make sure that we are working together to do what we can to preserve peace and avoid conflict. And that's certainly a very important part of the United Kingdom's foreign policy as well.
I just want to have an intervention here. I don't normally do this, but I think I will anyway. There are questions about how the UK feels, and as early as Wednesday, I haven't had time to even share this with Governor yet because I just got to look at it earlier this morning. It was up. It said, this is from the Honourable Stephen Doughty himself. And if they had concerns, believe you me, it would have been through the Governor office. And here's what he says. He says, Dear Premier, just wanted to check in personally on how you and Cayman Brack and Little Cayman are bearing up this morning. Hoping and praying that everyone is okay after a tough night. I am not far away at the moment as I'm currently in BVI. Please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything at all I or the team can do for you to assess the situation this morning. Stephen, Minister for the OTs, a British flag and a Cayman flag.
Yep. That is excellent. Okay, we still have about 5.5 minutes, 6 minutes left. Governor, is there anything else that you would want to cover?
I just maybe would like to come back to the election and just think about voter registration, actually, because I was looking at this. We've got about, I think, 24,000 voters in Cayman as we speak, and quite a lot of people have the opportunity to get newly registered. So that would be the 450 people who are turning 18 this year. So, all those young people, if you haven't yet registered, that would be a very good thing. There's apparently 2,700 young people between the ages of 18 and 24 according to Chief Officer Wes, who have not yet registered to vote. So there's quite a lot of young people out there, 10% of our electorate, who are not registered. And of course, there's a fair amount of people also getting Caymanian status, around 80 a month. So, you know, if you've just got your status and you want to be able to vote, you know, this is an opening, this is an opportunity for all of you. So we've done quite a lot of campaigning, I think, on this radio station and more generally to try and encourage people to be part of the electorate. And that is very important because I think as people have seen over the last couple of weeks, through the Constitution, reminding us about how democracy works here in Cayman, you know, the people you elect who then form the government, you know, they come together in caucus, they create the ideas, the papers and the legislation. Most of these areas are not, by the way, within my devolved responsibility, including budget. So, you know, the people that come into the government here, as in any country, have that responsibility and accountability and, you know, a power and control to be able to create the agenda. So it is really important that everyone has their say in who we are electing, and I would encourage everyone to get involved. Thank you.
Certainly. Premier?
Oh, thank you, Jose. Thank you, Governor. What an excellent way to end off this segment, to encourage our young people or even those who have not yet voted. And there's another category, those who have been disillusioned by the failed experiment of independence, who are now saying that they're not going out to vote. It's more important than ever before to go out and vote for a group of people who can take this country forward and maintain the stability and integrity and have that desire to do the balance between prosperity, environment, and putting the Caymanian people first. Now, that is difficult to say by most politicians because they gauge it and they balance it. I can say it without any fear of interest. My first priority are to the Caymanian people. Why do I say that? Because if they're not disgruntled, if their lives are better enhanced, we have a utopia for others to come and enjoy it as well. And that has been the success of Cayman, where we have over 130-something different nationalities. We get on good together. We support each other, even though there's evidence of some deviation and division. And I think also because we seem to suffer from an unscientific disease in Cayman called bad-mindedness, I would implore all praying persons in Cayman to put that on your prayer list. We've seen in neighboring countries what division, political division can do. And when the horse is out of the stable, it's too difficult to go and reclaim it. So find a good group or a party that you feel that can take the good ship Cayman forward. You do that by getting registered. You do that by going out to vote. Listen not just to what they say, but how they conduct themselves and mannerisms. And finally, being a good politician does not mean that you have to have a particular last name, that you come from a particular demographic, or that you have
or economic grouping.
That's why I'm hesitating. Or you have reached that 1% of the Cayman affluent and negated community. Being a good politician means you have a good background that's fundamentally that honesty is the best policy, and that you put people before self, and that in calculating whatever decisions you make, self and ego is left at the door.
Now, Premier, in the absence of established political parties, and I say that in plural because some will argue that there is one. They may argue themselves that they're really not a party. But be that as it may, how do you ensure, and there's never any guarantee, but how do you ensure, even with political groupings, that cohesiveness stays together? Do you have to have some sort of internal constitution amongst those that that binds them together? We know, for instance, that, and we keep hearing it, that in some governments, when ministers are appointed by their premier or their prime minister, that there's a signed resignation letter that is there that can be invoked, at any point in time. I'm not sure how true it is, but how do you get a grouping together? Because it is quite obvious, based on the aversion that Caymanians have towards political parties, that we're going to get similar to what we've had in the past.
Well, I agree with that assessment, OC. I think that the party process is still in its embryonic stage, and it needs quite a bit of fertilization before we can get to the gas station period. But to the gas station period, we must, if we're going to not continue in a inundation of changing of political personnel all the time. And because there's a luxury of not having a disciplined party executive, members feel free at their whims and fancies to change as the moon rises and as the sea rolls in. And that cannot lead to a holistic, healthy, democratic society. And so I think that this past 4 years of just independence, where there was not a common manifesto, that the commonality had to be engendered as policies came and discussions there. And so that would in itself have an innate tendency to lead to very heated discussions. And you can agree to disagree. I mean, when I was with the PPM, there was a particular issue that I did not agree with the now Sir Alden, and he appreciated that. I did ask for a conscience vote, and he gave it to me. Unfortunately, others followed, and the vote was lost. But the Constitution again stood up the test, because there was a Section 81 at the time. He felt led to go it. The governor wanted to go, and they did it. And so that's why as I stand on the Bible, I stand on the Constitution. Is the Constitution perfect? No. I mean, one of the things we found as recent as this week is that it says that, with 8-5 would be the quorum. It did not anticipate a departure of 3 ministers. And so perhaps the next government need to look at a trip to Eagle Rome in the UK to tweak it, because although the Constitution makes provision for minor amendments can be agreed between the opposition, because of what it would be, I don't see an opposition agreeing for that at this time. Now that we have a date for election, you can believe that we're going to see Paulette being extremely busy at Radio Cayman, where people want to buy up the week before election so that they can have that last voice and to the ears of the people. But OC, this Constitution has worked,
it has.
And people will try to continue to divide. I think that there are some very disappointed persons in the community that we're not going to election, because from the time the election was called, they had their perfect candidate into this glass ball, and that didn't materialize. And then when the perfect candidates continue to be departing like whirlwinds, then they became even more incensed that, oh my God, look who we have as members. But I can tell you, if I had to spend 24 hours ensuring that democracy is obtained, that stability is maintained between now and when I exit, I will do that. Last night was no exception. And I know that may be saying, well, you one can't do it. Well, I come from a very strong belief that with God, it's a majority. And if it comes to that position where I have to hold hands to ensure that they can get their work done, which I don't expect I have to do, Cayman will continue. And we have to remove the subjectivity of what we see as the perfect candidate. Because we can look at the great United States and see how greatness have been affected when you get that divisiveness. Cayman is too small for that. Most of us are family. Most of us are friends. Most of us have endeared and wrapped our arms around and embraced those who have come and helped build up our Cayman Islands together with us. When they see the natives being divided and becoming almost cannibalistic in political arena, strangers will inhabit the land. It is simple as that, OC.
Governor, I thought I was finished with you, but I just want to give you an opportunity again, since you're going to be on a flight, tonight, and based on what has, occurred, a few days ago as well. Can you speak to the mere fact that you're going, but we do have a deputy governor, and the system still continues, to function in your absence?
Yes, exactly. I was going to mention that, actually. So obviously, Frans Manderson, Deputy Governor, will be the acting governor. DG is a fantastic friend and supporter to me, a great leader of the civil service, as he has been demonstrating yet again over the last 24 hours with the distribution of the portfolios and making sure that chief officers feel supported. So I think we're just going into a period really of hard work, actually, where, you know, our ministers are going to be figuring out what is left to be accomplished. Our civil servants will be supporting them. As I said, we will no doubt be looking towards a dissolution of Parliament around the 1st of March, with the election date having been set. So with Christmas and everything else, you know, I think we're kind of adding up the number of weeks that we've got to be able to get things done. And I continue to be so impressed and so proud of our civil service.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it is a real beacon of light in the whole region, and we quite often get visitors who come from the UK or other countries which will comment on the fact that it is a real beacon globally, actually, when you look at some of the work that our civil servants are doing in, you know, areas like, I don't know, the prison, rehabilitation, our police. You know, we had a group of volunteer police officers here this week. So I was at an event with our police commissioner, and these were representatives, people who are like special constables, volunteer police in 17 other countries, including the US and Canada. We had about 70 people visiting. And they were all saying, when you look at the volunteer police, the special constables, and the way the whole system is run here in Cayman, going into the community, giving support, you know, they were just so impressed with how we do this in Cayman. And I am yet again constantly reminded of the strength and integrity and professionalism and capability of people across our civil service. So I just wanted to say, thank you to all of those people. And I think we're going into a period of knuckling down and hard work. Looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Premier. Anything else that
Yeah, I should have mentioned that at the conclusion of the JMC in the UK, we're going to be doing the annual Cayman Day on the 23rd of November. And I'm really looking forward with eager anticipation that we can get on a global stage to show the culture. I mean, people say we don't have culture. Now we have culture and heritage, I'm told. And so we'll get to display that in the UK with the Friends of Cayman, Caymanians who've moved to the UK, as well as our students in the UK. And so I'm looking forward to put our culture and heritage on display in London on the 23rd.
Okay, I want to thank both of you again for making yourselves accessible. I'm sure that I can speak on behalf of the people of the Cayman Islands. Again, the tremendous amount of transparency. And people have to recognize that you can't talk about everything that that occurs, in cabinet or in caucus or between you and the governor. But those things that you feel that the people need to know in order to allay any concerns, or even to overcome the rumors that are out there. I won't say on the proverbial Marl Road. As well. But again, thank you all very much. Want to wish you all the best. Have a great weekend. And Governor, safe travels to you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sosie.
Thank you.
Gracious host.
Yep. Folks, we've gone over time. I just want to remind you to join Sterling Duane Ebanks at 12:15 for talk today, or if someone else is filling in for him. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands. Enjoy the long holiday weekend, and please stay safe.
For the record, proudly brought to you by
Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los